Lagos, like other megacities in the world, is plagued by social challenges of domestic and sexual violence crimes, especially on women. The strategic initiative taken by the Lagos State Domestic and Sexual Violence Response Team is to embark on grassroots sensitization aimed at enlightening stakeholders and influencers within the society on the right steps to take in response to such incidences. Here's how the campaign went at Ikorodu.
These are key stakeholders within the Ikorodu community, from royalty to law enforcement, religious groups, market women, artisans, school children, teachers, and many others. They're all here at the instance of the Domestic and Sexual Violence Response Team of the Lagos State Government, which is partnering with the Oba of Ikorodu to create awareness and enlightenment on how the society can tackle issues of gender-based crimes.
The most common among these things is the domestic violence, which we are all aware of. The domestic violence, example of it is the battering, the beating of our wives at home by the men, the child abuse, the rape, defilements, and others. Let me take an example, the beating of our wife. This is a crime which is against the law of the land. It is the crime which God himself is against. Both the Quran and the Bible also against this act.
It could be your school. It could be your teacher. It could be the head boy taking advantage. It can be the lecturer. Please and please and please speak out. Working to somebody that is responsible in your school. I am sure within a school system you'll find at least one person that is responsible. Speak out. If you are not sure, if your parents are not ready to listen to you, if you are around Ikorodu walking and say, I need to see the KBAC of this place, that a group came from Alausa, they said I can report. Call 112. We are with you. We will make sure that, one thing maybe we did not tell you, the Lagos State Domestic and Sexual Violence is a holistic thing where your total needs are met from head to toe, because immediately you report, other things will follow. If we need to change your school, so be it. That is why we are made up of team, and that's why we have media, we have NGOs, people do different things. We have come together to make life easier. Don't hesitate. Don't be afraid to speak out. If they refuse to speak out, tell us. Confidentiality is maintained. You have nothing to worry about as it involves you.
Before you run to His Royal Majesty, before you run to the pastor, before you run to the theologian, with due respect, before you run to the head teacher, I think it is very important that the family lawyer is consulted. And that tells me too that we should, as members of the society, cultivate the habit of having lawyers. Every family should have a family lawyer. When you have a family lawyer, every member of that family, the children, will get to know him or her. And whenever issues like this happen, they may not want to come to tell the mother or the father. They may want to share with the lawyer. And the lawyer, by his training, is in a better position to advise you. Before you go elsewhere, I think it is important for us to place laws where they ought to be.
On his part, the Oba of Ikorodu urged governments to intensify efforts at creating jobs and empowerment as an antidote against domestic and sexual violence.
From my experience, the violence phenomenon is a deep social malaise that will require concerted research, analysis, and programs to minimize the incidents in the society. But I can categorically say that about 90% of the causes of the violence are ignorance and poverty related and hard drug induced, and not necessarily related to tradition and culture. I recommend that government should intensify efforts at creating jobs, opportunities for all categories of workers, the skilled and unskilled, and the empowerment for women and youth to raise their hope for self-fulfillment as antidote against domestic violence and sexual violence.
Members of the response team say the statistics of gender-based crimes are staggering and the culture of reporting needs to improve.
If we have such victim that have the boldness or encouragement to come before the police to report the case, we try as much as possible to effect arrest of such an abuser. And such case, the victim will try as much as possible to treat that case confidentially.
We want the community to basically act as ambassadors. We want a situation where if a victim comes forward, a victim of domestic violence, child abuse, rape, defilement, we want the community to protect the victim. We want the community to shame the alleged perpetrator. We want the community to encourage justice, not seeking for the matter to be settled out of court. And what we expect as well from this area, we expect to see an increase in reporting because we want to believe that the participants have come, will go and cascade the message down so that anybody that is hurting or has any issues will be more encouraged to come forward and get justice.
It's a call to action. The culture of silence will not help. Everyone is a mandated reporter.
The overbearing dependence on government to provide the welfare of the people is seen as a detriment to development in Nigeria. This argument was put forth by speakers at a public lecture on public-private partnership organized by chartered accountants in the Lagos State Civil Service.
As Nigeria's population grows on a daily basis, the need for government to respond to this growth becomes apparent, going by continuous overstretch of available infrastructure. Energy, good roads, and an efficient transport system are some of the infrastructure needed to match population growth. The reality of the dominance of the public sector is now obvious, hence the need to actively involve the private sector. This formed the basis of the 6th annual public lecture organized by the Chartered Accountants in the Lagos State Public Service. The purpose is to appraise how public-private partnership can stimulate economic development. The lead speaker, Professor Patutomi, provides an idealistic approach to why public-private partnership is a necessary tool for economic development in Nigeria. He argues that the absence of institutional framework to manage resources and leadership failure are some of the factors militating against public-private partnership initiative in the country.
Who shapes culture that shapes human progress? Leadership. What leaders do influence culture, and that determines whether or not you really make progress. Which is why I tell leaders that leadership is not about tarring roads. Anybody can pay a contractor to tie a road. But leadership is about setting the tone of how roads facilitate progress. If you build a road, you need a maintenance agreement. You need to do X, Y, Z. That's what leadership does. Set the tone of culture, and it makes for progress. The truth of the matter is that many times they're not resourced enough to do what they need to do. But they arrogate to themselves the providers of those things that they are not really able to provide.
He also believes that the build, operate and transfer structure is one of several models that could be applied to make public-private partnership more effective.
There are several models that you can use. Typical is concessioning, where the person manages for a fee because there are capacity problems in managing. There are cultural problems with managing from the public sector side. The tragedy of the commons, that which belongs to all belongs to none, can be a challenge for the public sector in doing some things. The build, operate and transfer models, where if capital is private, comes from the private sector, builds up this, and after a certain number of years, it's transferred to government. Build, operate and own. The person builds, operates and owns, and there's some understandings. There are even models like TIFA funds, where for future tax receipts, a government can concede, even provide grants, provide land, provide loan guarantees to a private operator in the understanding that 30, 20 or 10 years from now, tax receipts coming from that initiative, that project, that private activity will be enough to run the local government.